At face value, Do the Dance seems to be a song about contradicting feelings spurred by a sudden moment of overwhelming emotion. The song's Korean title is borrowed from a Korean idiom, Billyeoon Goyangi 같이, like a borrowed cat. This is a phrase that refers to a person who is detached from a social situation where other people are talking. If you're at a party and sitting on the couch by yourself, not talking to anyone, you're a Billyeoon Goyangi, a borrowed cat. You're socially removed from the situation, but not unnoticed, very importantly. People have taken notice of you not fitting in and doing nothing. You behave in a similar way to a cat who has been borrowed. Uncomfortable and unresponsive in an unfamiliar environment, right? This idea about social reservation conflicts a lot with the song's English title, Do the Dance. Not as strong of an idiom in English, but this phrase sometimes refers to participating and or performing in a way that is expected or required of you. For example, in order to get a promotion or climb the corporate ladder, you must do the dance of the business industry, right? Behave in a way that is expected of a corporate environment. If you want to blend in at a party, you have to actually do the dance, right? Get up and literally dance with everyone else. So while the Korean title is a simile for doing nothing and being unresponsive, the English title is a metaphor for participating and doing something. Two conflicting ideas, but why? ILLIT are borrowed cats in this story, awkward in behavior and constantly overthinking everything, causing them to be perceived as detached. While initially reserved and unresponsive to the people around her, our narrator has stumbled upon a catalyst that fuels her desire to do a little dance, to break the cycle of feeling like a borrowed cat and to instead embrace the environment around her and the fleeting moments of potential human connection that are in her grasp. The song captures this urgent feeling with insane accuracy. Do the Dance is a French house track with wispy string instrumentals that coax you out to the dance floor by surprise. You had long relinquished yourself to sitting at the couch at the party, but suddenly find yourself up on 2 feet. It is your own heart that suddenly drags you to the person who overwhelms it, prompting you to ask them for a dance. The verses of the song outline the demeanor of a pensive and introspective narrator trapped in her own thoughts. In the process of mulling over how awkward she is at the party, she isn't given any time before she realizes she has been blankly staring at someone across the room who makes her heart want to do a little dance. I think the pre-chorus of this song is actually less than 2 seconds. We're literally swept up in the chorus without much warning or time to think.
My heart starts to dance, do a little dance, do a little dance, do ya, do ya.
The heart has taken the reins over the mind. We're ready to shed our reclusive fur as the borrowed cat in question. And time is of the essence. If we want to ask this person to dance, we must do it now while the song is still playing. The strings start to creep their way back up in the background, pushing you towards the big moment where we take to the dance floor to let all our inhibitions go, but not before an awkwardly placed vocal chop refrain section. It characterizes this song as uniquely ILLIT's, but in ways that feel a little too familiar of what's been done before. Do the Dance's vocal chop refrain has a strikingly similar progression and delivery as Tic Tac, but after this refrain we finally get to the flourishing string-heavy instrumental break, the moment where you're no longer the borrowed cat at the party. You shed the self-conscious worries you had previously to swing around the dance floor with someone who makes you feel alive. The disco edge adds such a rich texture to this song. The string sections are truly the star of the show, exuding such strong senses of urgency, romance, drama, and passion. Everything matters in this moment, and how it turns out depends on whether or not you decide to act upon how you feel. It's such a strong song both narratively and musically. Do the Dance is an incredibly solid title track, moving the range of ILLIT's concept in a forward direction as we develop topics of agency. How do you deal with the self enough to learn how to embrace the moment and truly just experience life? I think this develops a multidimensional edge to the song and album's premise. Do the Dance is a love song about finding someone in the buzzing crowd of a party who makes you want to ask them to dance. In your reserved station of being a borrowed cat, dancing rather than speaking may be a good way to coax you out of your own shell. But in a similar vein to this idea, I have to think about why ILLIT have become the borrowed cats at the party. I like to believe Do the Dance is also, in some ways, a representation of the group's personal struggles in the industry so far. Being forced to show up to the party and knowing that everyone already has a strong opinion about you. Of course they're going to behave like a borrowed cat. They've been burned from putting themselves out there before. And so when it comes to the borrowed cat idiom, people tend to blame the cat for doing nothing in new and unfamiliar environments, but they really only appear as if they're doing nothing. In reality, a cat's inactivity is a part of its acclimation process. It's a survival instinct to assess the environment around them before they can relax and become more engaged. This album is, at least initially inexplicably titled Bomb, which I have to guess is the sudden explosive moment of the heart that pushes you to act out of passion. But again, with the potential for a multiple edge narrative, maybe also the explosive way ILLIT arrived onto the scene in the K-pop industry, for better and also for worse. This group has suffered more than most under the spotlight, and perhaps the tugging of their own heart to finally do the dance is the members deciding to rise to the occasion and become the artists they initially set out to be. Why blame the cat for doing nothing, for taking a while to find its own comfort when you're the one who forcibly placed them in such an environment? This is my personal understanding of the album and its leading narratives. I really like the idea of the French house strings pulling the members' hearts to finally come into their own as people and artists after quite heavy waves of irrational hatred and backlash. The album opens with the track Little Monster, which also has its own music video in the form of the album's brand film of the same name. The film opens with a question. Once upon a time we were all magic girls. Nothing could stop us. Where did the magic go? From a conceptual perspective, this seems to be about the dissonance between reality and fantasy. Maybe our narrator's tendency to have her head in the clouds is starting to wane as she realizes her own agency in real life can't be supported by the dreams in her head if she doesn't do anything to bridge those two existences. Dreams can become a reality, but only if you do something to make it happen. Building that bridge is what seems to be this group's central, universal premise. How do you actually will things into existence? We're creating a monster, says ILLIT. Sorrow and gloom manifest into real beings that have to be dealt with in some capacity in order to exist in the real world. It's becoming no longer enough to daydream, as the monsters are pulling at your feet to drag you back down to reality. We also become borrowed cats by waiting for life to happen, dreaming about better and or more ideal circumstances that in the end may never actually come to pass. You may spend your whole life waiting for the perfect moment when you're in a more ideal place, when you have more money, when you look your best, when you have better friends, and so on. Feelings of sorrow and gloom tug at your feet, throwing you back down to the surface of the real world to get a better look at the clouds above you. The ideal version of yourself you imagine does not exist so long as you believe it to be somehow separate from who you are right now. Building that bridge towards your dreams starts with the you that is here right now. Accepting that you are currently the idealized version of yourself. That person in your head is you if you will it to be. At this moment in time, ILLIT suggests we eat the monsters that torment us, piling sorrows into a bowl and feasting upon them. I feel like there's a lot of ideas we can pull from this, maybe suggesting the gloom and sorrow we feel is in some parts necessary for our growth as people, or possibly somehow a part of us that we must own to some extent. Little Monster takes personal initiative, but the hook sections exude a billowing sense of worry and panic. Quote, something feels off, but I don't know what it is. It won't stop bugging me. I'll never forgive it. I won't let it slide. And then in the chorus, a chirping I don't want to know anymore on continuous repeat. This seems to suggest that whatever conclusion we may come to about behaving like a borrowed cat on this album, it may not be one that will last for very long. The decision to eat the sorrow to get it out of your sight feels like a choice made out of desperation, to make the fear and worry go away as soon as possible, rather than actually dealing with it. This could also clue us into the album's larger sentiment about ILLIT's identity, maybe the decision to metaphorically eat your own sorrows, to internalize them without really considering what causes you to feel that way, makes you the bomb in question. Internalizing these things in order to avoid confrontation with your own feelings will likely lead to ruin. After the title track comes Jelly-ous, a song with a heavy-handed confirmation about the major ideas behind this album, which I cannot stress enough is so incredibly rare in K-pop that an album's concept is followed throughout the whole project. ILLIT are one of the only groups doing it at the moment, and I really wish they would be recognized more for how well they tackle cohesion. We're presented with a narrator who becomes jealous over the way a love interest is treating her. Does this person act this way with everyone? Is this person's kindness exhibited out of habit universally, or is it special for her? These questions are currently unknowable, which is causing our narrator to be overcome with a wave of jealousy that feels like she could explode. Hence the title Bomb, right? We keep tying back to a swelling of emotions that our narrator isn't equipped to handle in reasonable ways just yet. And the members' vocals are really allowed to shine in the post-chorus refrains of this song, where the decided upon course of action is to just postpone any kind of confrontation until our narrator feels less overwhelmed by her own emotions. The 8-bit instrumentation beeping throughout the hook sections helps to prop this idea up. This situation is starting to feel like a game our narrator has to overcome rather than an interaction with a real person who can think for themselves. The next track is Oops, a kind of punk-funk song. I don't know if punk-funk is an actual genre, but it takes ILLIT's characteristic easygoing style and transforms it into an anthemic song about the power of friendship, very simply. It's about the people that you can confide in when there is a person in the world who you want to tell everything to, but they are currently inaccessible. Oops as a song really outlines the strengths of this album in detail, particularly the disco edge to the album's title track. I think ILLIT really benefits from maintaining a laid-back sound, but reaching quite far and pulling from more unexpected music styles such as French house, and again, I don't even know what you would call a song like Oops, like a groovy pop punk style maybe? It's unexpected, but it really works. And then we end the album with the synth-driven dreamlike pamsopoong, or Nighttime Picnic. This song works like the rolling credits to the drama that is this album, detailing the whimsical feeling of the confrontation and meeting our narrator has been quite literally losing her mind over. The worry our narrator felt is dispelled under the starlight, now speaking honestly with the love interest at last. I really like this particular aesthetic when it comes to ILLIT's identity. Pamsopoong reminds me a lot of the confessional, introspective midnight fiction from their debut album. The moments of self-discovery and realization are visceral and polarizing, especially at night, right? The smooth instrumentals to this song help convey this feeling so incredibly well. Overall, looking at this album in full view at first impression, we are steadily building more texture and dynamic in the package that ILLIT presents to K-pop. But I do think they would benefit from moving away from the vocal top refrain sections. It's not egregious in the way it's included in this album, just a little unnecessary at this point, and runs the risk of sounding too similar to songs like Tic Tac. Similar to the discussion I just had about ITZY's Girls Will Be Girls, dedicating entire song sections to repeated words or phrases runs the risk of the entire song appearing underwritten, which is a little unfortunate because I genuinely think Do the Dance is one of ILLIT's most narratively strong tracks to date. While I'm sure it definitely has the potential to be grating to some, I actually think Little Monster's I Don't Wanna Know sections are thematically so strong and help lyrically convey a moment of panic, a desperate need to kill the sorrow that overwhelms you by covering your ears until it goes away. There is definitely a way gross, like neutrally gross repetition can work, but I think ILLIT could benefit from being a little more conservative with how much it's used in any given project. Jelly-ous is the song that stands out the most for its realization of this group's concept on first impression. And there is a lot of repetition in the choruses, but that's not all the hooks have to offer, which I think is important. I certainly don't mean to suggest that repetition is the devil or anything like that. I just think it can get to a point where it hurts the presentation of a song. But overall though, incredibly solid album. ILLIT's commitment to cohesive concept work is going to take them so far. I really hope to see more dynamic and texture added to their work as time goes on, and we press towards, hopefully, a full-length album in the near future. But this is what I think. My favorite songs right now, I think, are Do the Dance and Jelly-ous. Yeah, thank you for watching this. If you did, let me know what you think. How do you feel about the album in relation to ILLIT's concept, your favorite songs on first impression, and things like that? Yeah, thank you again for watching. Subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time.